Well, let's go over what skill and talent is. So I think colloquially everyone kind of knows the difference, but maybe again, maybe I'll take that for granted. So skill is something that you like obtain. Skill is something that you can practice, you can increase, gain, improve on. Something that's not like a static. It's not a static sort of gauge of someone. So for example, when you improve in like any sports, your skills going up. Where talent normally colloquially is like at your base level. It's like your static level. So you hear people say, oh, they're like a musician. That is not how you say it. A musician. They're talented at music. So they were kind of like inherently good at music. Innate, yeah, there you go. Innate, inherent, you're just good at it. It's normally because of like transferable skills that you're not aware of. So Fnatic's a good example, right? Fnatic was a Marvel player, right? He's like super sick at music. He was, I think, what was it called? Pitch perfect. So he could just hear a tune and then play it on the piano. But to play the piano, you need a skill. But he could just do it. He was talently gifted at that. And then when he came to fighting games, his execution was just good because he's so used to using his hands for playing instruments. So that would kind of be a talent. So if you came into the fighting game scene and was just good off rip, that was like your talent. If you came into the fighting game scene like me and had to work like super hard to get decent, that's your skill. So if you look at talent as like your base level and your skill is something that you improve by training, they're the difference. If anyone's got another explanation for the two, I'll happily hear it. But I think we need to even have the conversation, we have to know the difference between the two. And even if they're not the words you want to use, I think the concept of the two things are well known. Like someone being gifted at something versus someone who has to practice to be good at something. Yeah, something you're born with. Being good at an instrument is a skill as much as talent. Well, if you never had to practice, would you call that skill? If you just picked up a saxophone and just could play it, I don't think you'd call that skill, right? You'd call that talent. Colloquially. Learning to play music by ear is a talent. Yeah, I don't think you can learn. I don't know if you can learn to be pitch perfect. I reckon you could. I don't know if there's any talent that you can't learn. I don't think there's any talent that you can't obtain through skill. So whatever you have talent for, someone could not have talent for it and just be good at it through, you know, grit and like training and practice. I don't think. I've not thought about it that much, but it seems weird that you can't. There's like some examples are probably with something physical. Like some people physically can't do stuff, and even if they train, their body might not be able to obtain that. So if you've got like a power lifter, some people's metabolism, how their body functions, how they gain weight, how they lose weight, how they build muscle, they might be locked off from gaining that skill to the same level as someone who's just talented. And by talented, it's kind of just random. Like their body just might work better for that specific sport, right? For bodybuilding, powerlifting. That might be something where skill can't reach what a talent can. Or if you go deeper, something with like gender. So I'm sure everyone's heard of the tennis stuff, right? Where they had men versus women, and the women couldn't beat like the 100th seed man in tennis. So even if the women grinded, the talent of a man in tennis would just overcome him. Yeah, genetically, that sort of thing, maybe not. But in terms of like sports, and I guess height, like basketball, I was thinking about basketball. So let's not, anything non-physical, I think skill can get to talent. Agnologia was good. So we all agreed on that, right? In the case of fighting games, if someone practiced enough, if they had enough time, whatever, they could get to the same level as Sonic Fox if they practiced enough. Does anyone disagree with that? And if you can't, I need to understand why not. Because I think Sonic Fox is talented, but you could acquire that skill or get to their level with skill. Sure. If Sonic Fox is talented and has skill, clearly, if we're talking about in terms of fighting games, if someone could practice enough, so like they didn't have a job, I don't know, they were an android, only in terms of they didn't need to sleep, they could grind enough to get as strong as Sonic Fox. If we can't literally get that baseline of the two different things, like skill and talent, can't really go forward. If you think you cannot get to as good as Sonic Fox, I would probably say you don't understand the difference between skill and talent. Or maybe I've not explained it properly. Agreed. Okay. You don't think anyone could? Yeah, then I think you're talking about talent versus talent. Oh, man like Falk, what's good? Why can... I'm guessing you mean if someone hasn't got the ethic to practice. Not without their own talent level being high. I guess we're just gonna have to talk about this then. Unless you're talking about someone's ethic in terms of improving, I don't know why there would be a barrier. I think you could, and again, obviously not physical, so you can't, with all the time in the world, you can teach someone who is like in a wheelchair to play football, obviously. I'm talking about if you got anyone off the street and you said, look, you probably don't even know what a fighting game is, but you could practice enough to get to Sonic Fox's level. Let's go with level, not beat, right? To Sonic Fox's level. I think you could do that. I think it's possible. I don't think anyone could be as good as Sonic. Let's say equal. Even though I think better is so totally doable, but okay. Just being good at one thing. They can research similar skill levels and certain aspects. Always good. Average Joe, if it takes it that both Sonic and Joe practice the same amount of hours. Well, obviously that's... I see what you're saying, but that's kind of not how it works. Because you would, if you're playing your mate who's played 1 hour more than you have, and every time you play, they play, by that, you would never beat them. So if your friend beats you, but they've only got 1 more hour in the game than you have, and they always play when you play, yeah, they would never beat you by that logic. Some kids are never going to be able to get above us. No, I'm saying it is possible. Not that it's not that it can be done. That is possible. There's no reason that this woman walking down the street, if she started picking fighting games, she couldn't get to SF's level, right? Without practice. Oh, sorry, with practice. It's not impossible. Like anyone could have the potential to be that good. Obviously, it depends on if they're willing to practice, blah, 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 blah. But we have to grant that they're willing to practice. Because obviously, if I'm saying, oh yeah, we're going to train this person to be better than them, but they don't want to practice, obviously they're not going to get that good. So you have to be granting that they're willing to put in the practice. But the level you're trying to get them to isn't impossible. It's acquirable. It's possible. Like if anyone in this chat really wanted to, they could beat Sonic Fox in the game. No? Okay, as long as we understand it's possible that anyone could do it. You might beat them if you're more talented. Right, okay, I'll put another disclaimer. The person that we're pulling on the street has never played a fighting game before. So it's from scratch. Never played a fighting game before. You can teach them to be as good as Sonic Fox. A fraction of the work, you can beat someone who's worked hard. I'm guessing. Yeah, I believe that. That's why you have coaches in certain games, right? So you get or PTs when you go to the gym. You get someone to focus what you need to practice on. If you go in there without like any guidance, you could be learning something that's not useful, not practical, whatever. So I believe that. I didn't think we'd get stuck here. Because unless Sonic Fox is AI, they make human error, right? So it's not like they are unbeatable. Yeah. It's not a fair comparison. If a person off the street starts out, they're fighting the 20 years of Sonic Fox. But it doesn't need to be fair. It just needs to be possible. This isn't the argument. I'm talking about the possibilities to understand the difference between skill and talent. They're two different bars. One's like EX and one's is like Revenge Bar, for example. I don't think just because someone has years of practice before you means you can't catch up. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. It's possible you could beat him after a week. I don't know why that would be an impossibility. It's definitely possible, but I don't think it's very likely. Cool. It doesn't need to be likely. It doesn't need to be likely. Man, this is going to be a very hard conversation to have. Unless people have a different understanding to me from what skill is versus talent. That's what I think it is. I feel people value talent way more than skill. This is what I'm like gathering from the comments in the chat. So if we go to the Fnatic example as well, I'm pretty sure you could teach someone to be pitch perfect instead of someone inherently just being pitch perfect. Yo, what's good?
Mine has just begun.
The man like Kali Mac. Not every. Oh my god. Okay, I might just pass it. I don't know why everyone's getting. You can't teach a deaf person to be pitch perfect. Yes, I agree. Within reason, you could teach someone to be pitch perfect. You would play a sound. They would tell you. They would play the sound on the keyboards or piano. You would say no. You keep going through this process. Eventually, they will be pitch perfect. No. How is that not a thing? Is that not how it would work? Obviously, not that straightforward. Obviously, I've just made it super. I've reduced it down to like a core thing, but through literally trial and error, eventually, you would get to be pitch perfect. No.
Hello.
Oh, man, like sir, just you got mods.
What's going on? I can't even do the put your hand up thing. It just like shoves me straight in as soon as I click it because I'm mod.
Yeah, that's cool. No, it's fine. You've got the power. You can flex it.
Yeah, all right. Well, I think this is an interesting one, but I would like to pose a hypothetical back to you because of your stance on that. Like, you know, if you could teach anyone to be pitch perfect, right?
Right.
So, the inherent nature of being pitch perfect is that if you play a sound, the person who's pitch perfect will recognize it no matter what, right?
Mhm.
That's because they have learned and they have gained the skill, correct?
Wait, not if it's talent. If they're talent, they can just do it, right?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. Because like the thing is, if you're gonna call them pitch perfect, like just as a comparison, for example, you were talking about how any person who has the time to just graft and like get there eventually could be Fox because despite his level of talent, human error exists. So yeah, you could teach someone to be amazing with music overall, but you also have to factor in human error exists, and I think it's more likely for someone who is getting to that level through skill compared to talent to have the human error percentage.
The person who has the skill versus talent would have more human error.
Yeah.
I would. I don't even want to argue this point, but I would disagree. I feel the person who's got skill has gone through trial and error, while the person who has talent hasn't gone through trial and error. It's just inherent to them. Being pitch perfect is inherent to them, where someone who's has been trained through skill to be pitch perfect knows the errors. So they're aware of, okay, this might sound like E sharp bars, but they know it's not because they've gone through that. Where a talented person would just know that it's not and might make an error that way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's like recognition compared to experience, basically.
Yeah, so it's okay. I can make it even more clear in fighting game terms. If you've been hit by a mix, you're more likely to block it the next time. Unlike someone who's got really sick reactions, who's the talented person just blocking it first time. Do you see what I'm saying? So if someone's experienced it, the error or the thing that's going to, make them fail, I feel they've got more of an opportunity to succeed the second time, with a person who is talented in fighting games hasn't, even though they're talented.
Yeah, because even though they have those reactions and the general skills, if they haven't seen it before, it's a whole new thing. Okay, you know what? Fair enough. I think I'm going to swap my viewpoint on that one and say I'm with you on that. That's fair.
Obviously, I think it probably can work the other way, where the talented person has an advantage over the skilled person. Maybe having less. When you're skilled, you're obviously going to go for a lot more of a thought process, where a talented person, it's like second nature, so they can do it quicker, or they understand things quicker. They can understand the scenario. They can't tell you why they do or how they do because it's inherent to them, but they can just do it quicker, where a skilled person has to go through a lot more. They have to go through their memory banks. So I believe there's a difference in each one when it comes to benefits or drawbacks, but I feel if you have a person who is just naturally talented at something, to not think that someone could train to be that good feels a bit weird to me, but it could be just my brain, so that's why I'm talking about it.
Yeah, no, well, I think that's the case as well, because as you were having to clarify a couple of times, I think it's very important to recognize that you're hypothetical about picking anyone off the street to beat Fox. I am also in the camp that it's possible, but it's highly unlikely. It doesn't matter that it's highly unlikely, you could do it. It's just like when you then have to reapply the context at the end, that's when you realize like it's probably never going to happen. But if the circumstances allow it, I do think that skill could eventually get you there at talent, because like the talented player has just got a skill set for fighting games, right? Like they'll pick it up. Okay, that's the skill. I need to learn this offense. I need to learn this, way of doing combos. But the talented, the skill player is taking forever to figure out what he needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically the case of the skilled player could get to the talented player eventually, but would the talented player even still be playing the game by the time they got there,
Exactly. I guess with the timing, see, even with the timing thing, I know if obviously if someone's got a higher base power, so let's say the base power is talent, right? If someone's got a higher base talent, a base power level with talent, that someone who's weaker cannot use training to improve. Like, I think of myself, I never played any Guilty Gear before Rev, but in Rev I beat people that played Guilty Gear. So playing Guilty Gear and then going to Rev, that's your talent. Your talent is that you understand the game, the characters, kind of what they do. I know it's a different game, but the base level is still higher because you played a previous game. I didn't have any base. I had no base level. I went into it brand new, but I still was able to beat Guilty Gear players. I think that's an example of skill over talent, or a situation where skill even matched talent.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, it's not impossible for the skill player to get to the people with the talent. It's basically more of an uphill battle. Like if you were to visualize it as graphs, the talented player is just going exponentially up, while the skilled player is just slowly climbing and climbing and climbing till eventually the bars meet, and then it's like, you know, it's possible the match goes either way. Like you could totally argue that in a game's life cycle, someone who picks up that game for the first time but grinds it because they love it could be a top level competitor. There's like a lot of names, for example, that I haven't recognized with Dragon Ball doing that right now, but I would say that more often than not, the talented player will be the one to stay on top for longer. Like it's usually you'll have a few breakout players per game who will then kind of just stick around after that, and they have the talent for what they've learned to apply to other games. It's like a cycle of sorts, really. You go in, if you have the potential to become a top player through grinding, you do that, and then if you want to continue, you go to another game and you've got that skill set now.
Yeah, I agree. So if I said, sir, if you practice hard enough, you could be better than SF, you would say yes, but unlikely.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I'm saying anyone could do it without, you know, I'm not saying a person with no fingers or thumbs could. I'm just saying if you've got the same accessibility as Sonic Fox, you could practice to be as good as them. Biggest players are basically the beneficiaries of both talent and skill. I disagree. I think
I would disagree more on the talent side of that than anything else.
Yeah, would I think I would, because if you come from a prior game, you still so if you come from a prior game, you have the drawback of having to unlearn stuff sometimes, where the new player doesn't have to unlearn anything. So if you've got habits that worked in Marvel 2 and you're playing Marvel 3, you have to unlearn habits, where if you're just jumping on Marvel 3, you don't have to unlearn anything, you're just learning. I think unlearning stuff can be a problem. So I wouldn't say older players have both the advantages.
I mean, I actually think there is a really good example of that. I have the context wrong here, but there's a really good example. Goichi, right? Obviously, we know he was a bit out of practice at regionals. I think the reason for that was because so finals happened, then national championships, and then after that, before regionals, like, didn't he just go on a massive, you know, hiatus with Dragon Ball because he was grinding the absolute shit out of Street Fighter? Like, he was trying to get in a Japanese Street Fighter league. Like, because of, you know, how different those games are. For example, he has to unlearn some of the pacing and you know, functions of Dragon Ball to then get to the top level of Street Fighter. Whereas if I just give Street Fighter to someone who's got that insane level of talent, he's just learning Street Fighter. He's not having to get the Dragon Ball out of his head.
Yeah, 100%. I think it does work that way sometimes. Maybe not all the time. It depends on the player, I guess, because I always find it hard to go from one game to the other game, but there's a lot of top players that can do that easily. I think it's super hard. Heapski, I made the permissions to everyone, so let me know if you can see it now.
What I've done is I've moved the stage into the C4 laboratory section, because I think even if the permissions are for anyone, if you don't have a commentator role, you won't be able to see the channel as a whole. So.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, then let's see if you can see it now. He's in the.
Yeah, it's in C4 laboratory section now, Heapski.
Approaches from biases that your own natural ability. I'm the same, Heapski, same. Where in this subsequence of players that were born good enough to beat top players, but not everyone can. But then you're saying talent can only beat talent. That's literally what you're saying. You're saying unless you're born good enough, you can't acquire the skill to beat anyone who's above you with talent. I don't believe that. I think you can. I believe you can be trained to be good at anything, because let's say for example, there's no innate talent of MMOs. There was obviously a time in our life where MMOs weren't a thing, so there was no talent for being good at MMOs. So someone had to start gaining the skill to be good at MMOs, right?
Are you Reepski?
Wait, can you hear me?
Yep. What's up?
Oh, hey.
You can't be trained to improve your reactions. Yeah, well, I literally had this conversation for about 2 hours yesterday. I understand, but you can train to improve your anticipation, which translates the same as reactions. But yeah, go on, Heapsy. I won't give you the timer because you're a cool guy.
No, so it was a good thing you brought up reactions, because I was going to say, so talent, there are specific things that talent affects, right? And there are only a few things that talent affects within the context of fighting games, right? So reactions are going to be one. Pattern recognition, probably the other one.
I would disagree on that one, but carry on.
You don't think that's a talent?
I think you can have a talent for it, but I think you can get the same skill.
Oh, sure.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
But there's a baseline talent. I think some people naturally better it than others, and then through hard work, you could probably understand why they are, right?
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, in my head, I thought you was naming things that are exclusive to talent. My bad. That's my fault.
Right. So I think besides reactions, within fighting games anyway, all other skills, all other kind of like skill tests can be matched with effort.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm trying to think of a word other than quirks. Can we just call them quirks?
But if people don't watch My Hero, then they don't get. But,
oh, that's true. Yeah, powers.
Yeah, like skill test is, I think, fine, right? It's like here are the things that are difficult in the game that you can improve at, right?
Yeah, it's only because obviously we're going to say you can acquire this skill with skill. That's the only thing I was worried about. But yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's like
with effort you can. Yeah.
Also, like for example, execution. The execution is I don't know, an attribute. Some people are talented at that attribute, and some people can gain the attribute by training, by skill. By improving their skill. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, and I think reaction is probably the only one that is you can only get from talent. I don't think you can get reactions by skill. Like I said, I think you can only get your anticipations, like pattern recognition and stuff like that, knowing situations, knowing what your opponent's done before or what they might do now. I think when you have all of that, it's just the same as being able to react to it.
Yeah, I mean, for the execution argument as well, you can definitely tell when it's different. I mean, I could be wrong about this, but I think there are two people you can draw for comparisons in Dragon Ball in particular. So you've got, I think, Scholar Photon, for example, is just execution talent with his combos, right? Like he sees something that can link, it's right, boom, got it. But on the other hand, you've also got Talios, who, I think a lot of people know, spends so much time in the lab finding some of the inventive stuff that he does for Beerus. It's just both of them are at an insane level of combo finding, routes, and execution, but they've both gotten to that level through two different ways, haven't they? One of them just sees it and goes, right, that's going to work. The other just tries and tries and tries until it sticks.
Yeah, I agree. Real quick. Again, everything we're saying is within limitation. So we're not talking about someone who doesn't have any limbs doing combos like Justin. We're not talking about... So yeah, your grandma probably couldn't do desk combos. I'm fully aware of that. But that's a physical limitation. We're just talking about mental stuff. And the problem is with talent. So I would say picking up things quickly is a talent. Some people just pick up a game and play it. I think I have that talent. Because when a game comes out, I'm better than everyone else for the most part. Not everyone, but I'm on average better than most players at the start of a game. And I think that's because of how I think about it. Not because of my execution, none of that, just because I understand stuff a little bit quicker than everyone else. But then when metas develop, I always slip behind. At the beginning of Dragon Ball, I was getting top 3 and I couldn't maintain that because everyone else was catching up. So being able to oh, I got mad feedback. Is that Ryan? I bet that's Ryan.
What?
I can hear myself. Oh no, it's gone now. What's it saying? So in terms of Dragon Ball was the example. Damn, where was I forgot where I was now. It's cool. Someone else talk.
So talent. I think also hard work is a talent, right? Grinding in it is a talent.
100%.
I also think that hours put in outweigh any talent you could have regardless. I think the biggest indicator for anyone's strength in pretty much any activity is hours put in.
I could agree with that. I don't know.
I think that's a fair comparison. I mean, Goichi at regionals, for example, like we have seen where his talent overall and the amount of like time he spent at the start took him. But when regionals came, he was failing, character matchup checks, and he lost 6 on the trot. Like you can't argue that he's not an insanely talented player, but because he was not putting in the active hours at that time, the other Japanese players who were grinding and were ready for the event took it over him, Like,
so when I played Strive, basically I was like locked away playing Strive for like 3 months, right? First 3 months up to Evo of that game, I pretty much grinded the whole time. Now the people who in Europe, the like highest rated people, the people who all got top 8, had the most hours put in. Was generally how it worked. I think it was like Uriel, Aliun, Leffen, Verix, me, and and everyone else in top 8 all had similar numbers. I think Leffen was clearly the highest as well, by the way.
Right.
And then when you looked at all the other regions, I think it was only America where I don't think that was the case. But in the most part, if you looked at like number of games played, number of hours put in, the people who are doing the best were always the people with the most hours.
So I do agree with that, but I think Aaron explained why I don't agree with it. Like, there's a part of me that doesn't agree with it, and it's because how productive you are with the time, right? So someone could like use 20 hours to learn a stylish combo. All right, you know what? I'm not gonna throw shade on them because I think that this person is super talented, but someone like Clayton. Now, Clayton's super talented when it comes to understanding combos, because he sees things that no one else sees, right? Yep. But that talent doesn't translate into practicality in terms of winning. Do you see what I'm saying? So he's probably put in loads of hours, regardless of what he says. He's probably put in loads of hours to find, record, blah 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 blah, and that doesn't equate to the type of hours left and you and them not put into another game, right? So. And that you can't really equate that. You can't look at someone and go, oh, the time you put into training mode equals this much. Even though on average, like you said, Leffen, who put the most time in, won Evo. But I think for a metric, the person who puts in the most time normally comes out on top. I think that's not a hot take or anything.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say, if you're like just looking for combos or looking for specific, so I guess all the people that I mentioned are also people like entering tournaments. They're trying to win competitively, right? And the hours put in would reflect that.
But you can still, like, you've seen me in your stream, and I'm like, every now and again, I'll be like, why are you practicing that? That's a scenario that doesn't happen often enough for someone, I feel, for someone to practice. And I think some people are like that. Some people do something. You know what? Perfect. I've got a better example than the Clayton one. TODs. People were learning TODs, and half of them couldn't hit it. But someone like Faisal hit it all the time.
Yep.
Which made everyone else want to learn TODs, but they didn't have the neutral to hit that button that would lead to it. So even though TODs are practical, if that's all you practiced and never landed it, then I think maybe it's an ad hoc then. Maybe it's ad hoc because you can only tell that afterwards. I don't think you can tell that at a time what's practical, right?
I still think practicing of the combo, that's fine. But obviously you would have to equally practice hitting it, right? Like in actual games.
I don't think people do
There
that.
are loads of times, like if you watch Faisal play,
Mhm.
a lot of times he's trying to hit the TOD, right?
Yeah,
He's literally the way he plays the game
Yeah.
is around like run up 2H sometimes.
100%. Obi does that as well.
So yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of shaping the whole way he plays the game. Yeah, but I get what you mean. People could definitely, and I think tons, like it's a massive issue in fighting games. I think most people waste their time practicing things, or they could use their time better.
Mhm.
But again, that's a talent in itself.
Yeah, to identify what is a waste of time of learning.
Yep.
And it's hard. I don't. No, actually, no. I do blame some people. Most people, I don't blame, because they'll see someone like Marlon Pye do that stuff in Marvel 3 and they're like, he gets it every game. Like, clearly I'm going to get a hit. I'm playing Doom. Someone's going to get foot dived. Let me learn this tack infinite, or let me learn this swag combo. I feel when people watch other people play the game, they assume that they need to practice something similar to what they've had to practice, which, yeah, like you said, it's a skill to go, I'm not at that level. I don't need to learn that stuff. I don't need to learn the combos Bombabon or Anby's doing with Soul. I need to learn neutral first. I need to learn how to whiff punish or a matchup. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that is a talent, but you could also be taught that by a coach.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, other than reactions, I don't think, this is what I was saying about the Sonic Fox thing. I didn't like preface it very well, because it's obviously I don't think anyone could. I think it's a possibility, because I don't know that person, the random that I'm pulling to beat that, but I can't think of a reasonable limitation to why someone couldn't be as good as or better than Sonic Fox.
Beyond talent, I mean, there's obviously the egg in the room is experience, right? In the fact that no matter how like long the new person tries, Sonic Fox is also just going to have the amount of time they already do on that person, right?
True, but we've already established that you can. It's sort of like KO Ken on your time, so you could be very rigid in your practice or your training schedule, and that would amount to someone's 10 hours. So my 10 hours, right, that I've put in, you could probably equal that in 2 hours if you're really like taking notes, grinding, applying. Like, you see how Anby does it when he goes on stream and he goes, I got hit by this, I need to practice how to counter this, where I'm just going 10 hours, some, park matches, learning a specific combo, counter hit confirms. So yeah, I think even with that massive advantage that Sonic Fox has got, you can overcome that by applying your time better. I'm sure they apply their time good as well, obviously, because they're super good at games, but I think it's not impossible. I think that's all I'm trying to say, is that it is possible, bar the person saying, I don't want to practice or I don't care. I think you could. I don't think it's easy, and you'd probably need like a gang of people, not like one or two people, like a whole host of people that have played the game, people, I don't even like, probably you'd have to go onto the side of like dieting and stuff like that hardcore stuff like Reinhardt and Tokido do to get to that level. I don't think it would be easy. I just don't think there would be, I don't think there is a reason not to think that. And if you did think that, you might as well just watch AI tournaments at that point, if you think that can't be done, personally.
No, I think it could. I would say it's unpractical and unlikely, but I definitely think it's possible.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's possible. So agreed as well, I think, earlier.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to talk about is balancing games around that. So I feel I don't think it's necessary, or I don't think anyone cares, but I think you could balance games around popular talents and popular skills, where even a talented player could be rivaled by someone who's put time in. And I think a lot of games now are kind of skewed in the skilled players' favor. You hear a lot of people talk about they've kind of removed legacy from stuff, right? Especially in Strife to Rev. There's a lot of things that I didn't Rev that I don't do now, either because it doesn't matter or it's actually bad. So
Yeah.
The talents kind of, and Tekken players used to say this all the time in the new Tekken, where it's made easier. So all this stuff that I've learned is irrelevant now. So it's kind of more skewed to the skilled players in their favor. I think there's a way of making it kind of balanced. I don't know if you two agree with that. I think it is possible.
I 100% think that's what Strive did. I've said this before. So obviously there was the big meme when Strive come out where they were like, "Look, we're making it accessible,"
Mhm.
and the whole thing. Everyone took them saying, "Oh, we're not having Oki. We're just making it, easier for everyone to get into." Right? People for some reason assumed that meant they're making it like just the game's just less deep or whatever. But what the way they'd done it was they simply just removed legacy skill, and they were like, the game now works like this, and everyone is starting from basically ground zero. So you all learn at the same time, right? And it's still a deep, like, intricate system. But the way they got everybody to kind of play together was it's a brand new system, right? Rather than it's like Street Fighter, right, where there's tons of legacy skill or Tekken.
I see
That makes-
that. I don't know if that's a balance more than a reset. It's just like, look, you're all starting from ground one.
Yeah.
Which I guess
Yeah,
technically. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, that favors the skill based approach, right? Because we're all learning, we're all learning from ground 0 which means the effort put in training on this new system is more important than your talent in Guilty Gear previously, right?
Yeah, which I think I'm okay with it. I don't really care unless something's fair. That's fair to me. Everyone started from ground one is fair. The only thing around it would be like saying, well, that person's talent is picking up games quicker, but every other talent is irrelevant here. So there is one talent that helps someone like Chris G, Alioun. They pick up games super quick and they get super good at them quickly as well. That's kind of their talent, where you can have someone like Justin Wong or someone who's talented but not in the same way, and you can see that in the performance in other games, right? So I think there's stuff in game. Oh, sorry, my bad. Sir, did you want to add anything?
I'm just thinking personally about like what my stance would be on actually making it balanced in this regard. To be honest, I think it's difficult. I think that it's nigh on impossible to do that from the launch of a game, in my opinion, because at the end of the day, you've got a set of mechanics and a structure to your game that people are just either going to have an affinity for or they're not. And if they have the affinity, they'll learn quicker. If they don't, they're going to have to grind. You can narrow the gap, but I think there is always going to be like a clear difference between the talented and the skilled player in terms of how fast they learn.
Yeah, I think the speed of like the early days, like month 1, month 2, I do think the people that break away are the talented people. Free, like you just can't stop that. I don't think a person with no talent could be good that early, and if they do, then their talent is acquiring skill quickly, if you know what I mean. But I think in game, so things like Cross Tekken, I think Grand Blue did a not too bad job at attempting to do this, right? Actually, let me stick to Grand Blue because more people play Grand Blue than Cross Tekken probably. So in Grand Blue, if you did the special, I think they only applied this as supers, but they should have applied this as specials as well. If you did the inputs for the special, it should do more damage than if you use the easy input. Supers were like that. The supers did more damage if you did the actual input, like the core circle or whatever, instead of forward thing. That way you go, okay, cool. If you're, say for example, you're new to the game and you're locked out of doing certain combos because you haven't got the talent or the history or the XP to do these motions. But the people that are talented get a benefit from doing it the harder way. Both players can do the same thing, but the person who's put in time, whether it be through skill or talent, to do the inputs gets more of a reward. I think stuff like that is a good thing to balance out both sides of the game, and it keeps both sides playing the game. Cross Tekken did it with gems, which I thought was a good idea, but everyone hated it. I think it was a good idea because you know what? For example, I'm trash at Tekken throws. In Cross Tekken, there was a gem that allowed you to take throws automatically, but every time it did it, it took like a quarter of your bar. I think that's a fair trade-off. If I want to drain your bar, I just throw you all the time.
I mean, issues with gems come from like they were behind a paywall and shit.
Yeah. No, you're right. And that, and obviously every match took like 10 minutes to load up because people would. That as well. Yeah, I think the concept of gems is good.
Right.
The implementation was horrendous. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Larry said, can't you just ignore the talented people and just build towards the people with skill? You can't ignore the talented people because if you ignore them completely, they can completely ruin a game. If they're not considered, then talented people end up breaking games. It happens all the time.
Yeah, I was going to say that wouldn't work. The actual opposite would occur if you think about it, because even if you just focus on building the game for the skill set of people, which is like the people who will take longer to learn, so it's a gradual process. The talented people will just walk in, learn it all immediately, and it'll take months for the skill players to get to that level. Like, I feel like just focusing on designing the game for the skill player actually has the opposite effect of what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I think it's dangerous.
Yeah, you can't ignore this. They always, in fact, you have to build, like most fighting games are built like this now. So you build fighting games towards the maximum like player skill, and then they like build down. So a lot of mechanics work like DR, like how fast things are and stuff. A lot of it is kind of, they all hover around the same frames, and there's a specific reason for that. Is because it's like, right, well, you know, stuff at 19 frames, these like people like Goichi and stuff, they kind of just react to that shit. Even though most people don't, they do. So you have to keep stuff at 17 frames because otherwise they just simply play a different game to everybody else.
So like they in most things, because obviously someone's going to say Guilty Gear for pros are like 2 frames, but mostly they go, okay, this is the average. Oh damn, that is near that's near Red Bull.
I used to work down this road, yeah.
Yeah, I just realized I remember actually walking this road when I was walking back to not Tottenham. What was I walking back to? Oh no, it's Tottenham. No, it's not.
Old Street Station.
That's it, Old Street. Yeah, my bad. Yeah. So, what was I saying? No, it dropped out of my head. I'm so bad.
Basically, they have to build games around the talented.
Oh yeah, so they have to. So there's like a bar of average people that are like, the standard average reaction time is say 20 frames. That's kind of giving you a cushion for like 1 or 2 frames of error, and then they work around that sort of thing. Because if they looked at the average of talented players, no one would be able to play the game. No one but talented people would be able to play, because the anticipation, like learning that, by the time you've learned it, the talented people will learn the rest of the game. Yeah. So yeah, I think it is better that they're aiming towards skill rather than talent. But that's obviously why most of the talented players are really upset of how like games are coming out now, because it makes so to them, they probably see it as a skill, right? And it is to a degree. So if you go to someone and go, you're just talented, you can just do this, they'll be like, no, like Faisal. You can't go to Faisal and say, oh, you're just talented, you just do these combos easily, effortlessly. And it's like, no, I had to practice, like, but it doesn't sound the same when you say it to someone who wasn't good to start with. Do you know what I mean? Because Faisal's been good at games, it feels like he hasn't like acquired any like skill or grafted in a game when he has. But
yeah,
it's quite difficult to, once a talented player has grinded, it's hard to say which part's talent, which part's skilled, or which part is acquired skill, because it just blends together, right?
Yeah. So the one thing we haven't spoke about talent, which in fighting games, which isn't really spoke about a lot, but is like strategy and how good you are at creating plans.
Mhm.
So they're like it's very clear to see who's like talented at like infiltration, and it's also very obvious at high level because like you can like visually just watch the plan happen and the person fall for baits and stuff like that,
Mhm.
right? Kaiden is fantastic at creating plans, and it's I do this thing, and then you think you're doing this, but oh no, the barrier was there waiting, and now you get hit, right?
Mhm.
Oh fuck, what was my point?
You can't tell the difference between talent and skill.
Yeah, I think strategy is the best indicator at high level fighting games to show talent.
Talent. You don't think people
Yeah.
could learn
I think
from
people,
scratch?
copy strategies from others. I think some people create strategies, right, and
Okay,
continue to do so. I think that's talent.
that's fair. I'll probably say that's fair. I mean, there's probably going to be some outliers where someone's skill created a talent. Sorry, someone's skill created a strategy, but I think they would have had to have come across prior strategies to come up with that. Well, I think a talented person could just come up with a strategy. I think, I agree with that. I think OB does that. I think OB is just so talented. I think he doesn't know how good his strategy is half the time. It just hits for him.
Yep.
He plays hit. Like, he has no high-low, but he's always found a way to open people up with him. And every way is different. Every way is a different way to open you up.
So Andrew Hodgson. Sorry, I'm butchering it. But is that based on past experience or talent? Right, so past experience in different fighting games is definitely always going to carry over.
Mhm.
But if you're creating a strategy in whatever game it is, generally it's going to be like new, right? So let's say infiltration. We play a brand new fighting game, right? He picks this character, and in this matchup, I guarantee he'll probably come up with a strategy for a certain matchup faster and more reliable than 99% of fighting game players who are also just jumping into the game, even if they have prior fighting game experience.
Right. Okay. I think I agree with that. Even to spin that example. So, oh man, what's his name? Dominion. So Dominion played Mori before Chris G, and he played a lame style. He played like Mori, Beautiful Joe, Doom, I think.
No, did he play? No, he played Strange.
Oh, I'm bugging. Yeah, it was Strange, Beautiful Joe Morgan. Yeah. And he did the fireball spam, but obviously it wasn't as effective. But Chris G saw that strategy and went, "I'm just gonna make it OP. I'm gonna see this. I saw this strategy. Oh, I can just fill the screen with plasma. How can I take this to the extreme?" And that's what he did. So even though it wasn't originally his strategy and he didn't create it, his talent abused it to a level that no one else did for like 4 or 5 years until Ryan LV came along in the last year of Marvel vs. 3. So I think his talent didn't create that strategy, but it saw the potential in it and made it basically ruin the game for people. A lot of people, he ruined the game because of how he played, because Dominion had the strategy but it didn't ruin the game for people.
Yeah, I think it's exactly that, right? Like, it's an obvious like distinction between the two.
Talent. I mean, talent. That's why it's talent, isn't it? Because I think it wouldn't be talent if you wasn't annoyed that someone could do it. Because you can appreciate when someone's skillful at it, but people seem to get annoyed when someone's just, or maybe not annoyed, they're indifferent to when someone's just talented. Because it's just like, well, we expected that of you. But when someone grinds, people are more willing to give them credit. Let me hit refresh. Yeah, it should be all right now. My bad. I need to get a new computer. Feels bad. I was probably just rambling anyway. Something about Chris G. I think it was like Chris G, talent versus skill.
Yeah, and like turning that play style of that team in Marvel into just something OP.
Oh, yeah, and then I was talking about Slash.
Yeah.
So because he plays May, it's very hard to see his skill, and the talent aspect of his gameplay is just in May, where people don't really respect how hard he put in, how much work he put in to be as good as he is, because they see it just with May. But if it was just because of May, then everyone else who played May would be able to do it. They also should be able to beat Latif, but it seems to be only Slash that can.
Yep.
And I'll probably say Latif. I think Latif is talented in execution
And reactions. Yeah.
Mostly, yeah. And I think he can build. His skill is built off of that. So I think like his strategy is the strategy he comes up with is only possible because of his talent of execution and reactions.
Yeah.
So anyone else could see his strategy and then still not be able to implement it. I think that's where talent can sort of be. You can't catch up to me, because you need this basic foundation of being good at this before you can acquire or copy my strategy. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, there are definitely so who else can I say? So the way Kizzy K plays Kai, he plays a very like hit confirming super style. Right? Some people just can't do it. It's really not that difficult, but some people just can't, right? So yeah, that's another example of like strategy being predetermined by talent. Shit, did everyone leave? Jesus Christ, guys.
No, we're good. Yeah, C4 just said he'll be back in 5
Right, cool.
in the Twitch chat. So, what's Donkey saying here? Are we saying skill is in efficiency in one area versus talent displayed across, for example, multiple games?
No, we're saying so talent is your innate ability for something. So some people can just react faster than others. Right. It's not yeah. Whereas everyone can work at understanding their need to react in a situation. Some people can just react in more situations than other people.
Yeah, like that sort of thing. Basically, it's about who would adapt faster to the fighting game environment, for example, and just who has the skills to be able to do that from the get-go. So, for example, what the example that C4 used earlier, a talented player might have better reactions than you, but if you hit them with a mix-up that they have never seen before in their life, it's highly likely they're not going to block because they don't know what they're looking for, and it's new information for the brain. So they would still have a chance of getting hit by it. So both sets of people, the skilled player and the talented player, could block it, but the argument is the skilled player with enough effort could have as much chance of blocking it as a talented player.
Yeah. Andrew, I agree. I still feel with everything 90% is effort and natural talent is very minimal. Yeah. I think for the most part, especially in fighting games, I don't think what we would say talent is the biggest indicator of success. I'd say hard work and skill is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think the terms, in some regards, are naturally linked. I think they are two very different concepts, but they play against each other. For example, my belief in terms of fighting games is your natural talent is your ability to quickly and efficiently learn the skills needed to be good at the game. So, for example, if I don't have any talent at fighting games, I have to just stick to the books and do everything possible to learn the skills for that fighting game, whereas a talented player can quickly learn by visual example, lab, or whatever. They can do it however they want. So I think that, like in terms of fighting games, the more talented person will grow quicker, but that doesn't mean their top level is any higher than the skill players.
Yeah. No, again, I think the outlier there is strategy.
Yeah, fair.
Because fighting games can be fairly creative. I think that's the separation. But also, the thing is, as soon as a strategy has been used once, it can be copied by someone who grinds, right? So
Yeah.
So I do think the person who puts in the most work, generally, the person who sees the most reward. I feel like the players I'd consider super talented, display their ability seemingly effortlessly across multiple games. Chris G, for one, might be irrelevant to the discussion, though.
Well, no, he's not wrong. It's just like, the point is we're comparing people who don't have the talent of Chris G. Like, could they become someone who has the overall ability of Chris G?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is, without question, the case. Like, it might take them longer. Don't get me wrong. But if you give them the right tools, if you keep them on the right mindset, if you show them what you need to do, they will learn eventually just through brute force, and they will be on that level. It's just a case of who gets there first. I think is the key factor in the whole skill versus talent thing.
Yeah. So this is a discussion. I think it's happened like multiple times in Smash. I've seen people talk about it, and Smash 4 as well. It's not even like Melee, which is like a super hard execution, like crazy game. A lot of people in Smash 4, I remember this has been an argument for like years. I'm not really a Smash dude, so take it with like a grain of salt. But there was like a big discussion about talent versus skill or effort. And they're like, well, there's just no point in me grinding because, this person's more talented than me anyway. So it takes me twice as long to get as good as they already are, and blah, 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 blah. I've never agreed with it. But there are those who disagree. Just so we... Because at the moment, literally everyone here agrees. Well, what's the fucking point? We need some conflict,
I was gonna say, like, if you do want to get involved and you have a different viewpoint, just join C4's Discord or find a stage that way in, and we'll invite you in. Because, like, this is the point of when C4 does these streams. Really, it's just like, if you've got an opinion and you think you can argue it, do it.
Yeah. Say it. But I think most people agree.
Yeah, to be honest, I do think over time this has become a bit more of a clear-cut, understood argument. But the one thing that I was curious about was what C4 said about how would you balance a game to incorporate both skill and talent, because he thinks that a lot of games are, more lean towards the skill factor now. What would you think on that one?
How would you balance? Because more games... Yeah, I don't see there being a problem, though, in rewarding... Do they? I don't think that's true, that they reward skill over... Because I think all fighting games have always done that. They reward the time put in. I think... So, older fighting games... There were generally more mechanics, and there were generally more things to learn. Like, overall.
Yeah, I think that was the point C4 was making. Like, for example, the Rev to Strive example, how some of the things that were in Rev just aren't there in Strive. Strive has more, like, you can just pick it up, really, if you want to. That sort of thing. Like, talent in the sense of the game could have a shit ton of mechanics, but the talented player could just, learn them to snap of her fingers. But now it's more just a thinner scope, so there's less stuff to learn overall, but a massive skill cap.
C4 says, being a bit of a dick, but does dive kick reward more time in the game? Yeah. I think more experience in dive kick grants will result in you winning more than the person who's never played dive kick. I don't think it lasts that long. The experience you've gained, but generally you'll come up with so here's a couple of strategies I have, and then they'll probably get used very quickly. But I still think it does reward more time, right?
Yeah, I think personally that it's like impossible to strike a perfect balance between like games mechanics catering to skill and talent at the same time. You've got to have it leaning one way or the other in some regards. Like, you know, do you want your mechanics to be broad but not too hard to, you know, master, or very narrow but it'll take you forever to get to the peak of them? That sort of thing. Personally, I think that the way to go about this would be just through changing the mechanics as you go. So what I mean by that is, at launch, system mechanics are very narrow. There's not many, and you just have to pick them up, learn them, and you will be like the best at that game if you can do that. Because what that'll mean is talented people will get to that mastery level very quickly, but the skilled people aren't getting bogged down and having to learn so many different things that they will have a high level. Then, as time goes on, spread the mechanics out a bit, and then the players who are starting to build the skills necessary to be good at the game can then branch out and sort of like keep up with the talented people. Because I think the issue is, when you give a talented player and a skilled player an entirely new, clean slate, you know who's going to be faster. But if you give them a bit of an experience with the game first, and then spread the mechanics out, like, the skilled player isn't going to have as much of a deficit anymore, I think.
I don't think the deficit's that huge for talented players anyway. I would say like within a month and a half, right? What we would say talented people, they're already like, if they're not putting in as much work as the next people, then they're just it's already gone. All right, like they're kind of innate advantage. I honestly don't think talent is like a massive thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's a make or break thing either. I just think that I think talent is most prevalent at the earlier side of a game life cycle, because you can tell who has gotten to that top level just through you know, learning from what their skills give them, and like, there you go, they're at the top. But then as more time goes on, the skilled players are slowly climbing up, and then boom, it's equal footing. So I don't think it matters that much. I just think it's more a case of, how do you keep the game balanced in such a way that, like, you know, that stays the case and there isn't one side of the coin, you know, vastly different than the other.
I would say I don't think there's an example of like just innately talented people dominating a specific game. So I'd say what fighting games are doing right now is perfectly fine. Yeah, like in almost every brand new fighting game, people enter who have never played fighting games before, and they start doing really well, like almost instantly. Well, really well is relative, right? So, like a lot of people in Strive, a lot of people in Street Fighter 4, like in almost every game I've ever seen, generally a few select people will like do really well above those who have like who we would call talented, right? Like
Yeah.
Wong was doing sick in Strive for the first month, and then month 2 he wasn't winning anything anymore, right? So and that's like the newest game that we could have.
Yeah, that is basically what I mean. Like, the talented people at the start will be the ones winning everything, because they don't have to worry about the time barrier to get good at that game. But then, as more and more time goes on, it levels out, and the skilled players are in the mix as well. And there's a lot more people at the level who could get into top 8, who could win, so on and so forth. So I think that's fine. Let the talented players, explore and show the skilled players where the system mechanics can go, and then they will just naturally grind and take them to that level anyway.
Yeah. That's generally the way it works. I think The modern games are doing that, and it's fine. Obviously, I personally would like more complex games. I think like a lot of the games I play at the moment, I don't consider that fun. Actually, I'm going back to play Dragon Ball at the moment because I think it's probably the deepest game out at the moment. But I personally would prefer if they just added more mechanics. So the whole like skilled player or somebody who has things to grind at and get better at, skills to work on. I think it'd be better if we had more games so that they could invest their time in.
I don't see a problem with that because I think adding that depth, well, it is a good thing, but this is the same sort of argument that C4 had in the whole execution versus that debate. Basically, see, at the end of the day, we just concluded like if you're going to complain that a hard execution ruins the difficulty of the game, for example, then just go play a game of hard execution. Like if
Yeah, that's definitely what you should do.
yeah, and it's as simple as that. Really, it's just if that's what you're here for fighting games for, well, there you go. There are games that do that. No need to rag on other games for just not being what you want. That's just how gaming works.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
And I think in some senses you can apply the same here. Like if you want a game where it's just overall difficult so that people can either learn it immediately, or you can really see when people have put in a lot of time to get to that level, then those games do exist.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Interesting question from Donkey. Would you agree by that standard that technically skilled players would always be on the back foot?
They are inherently, right?
Inherently at the start of a game, but our point is by the sort of peak or the time where the game has begun its competitive life cycle. No, it's fair to say that they could be on equal footing. Definitely not late in a game's life. No. Our argument is at the start of a game's life, the talented player will be the one who is on the front foot, and the skilled player is on the back foot. But as the game is out for longer, the skilled player just catches up through sheer dedication and learning. The talented player has already got to that level because he's a talented player. The skilled player works his way up to that level, and then they're on the same sort of level. That's the point. So late into a game's life cycle, I don't really think there's any one set of person you could say is on the back foot.
Yeah. Donkey asked questions, actually.
Yeah. I had a question. It's not as good as that one, but I was thinking, what is the metric to find out who is talented or not? So obviously we gave examples like Christy and Infiltration and stuff. And I was thinking, would I class Nitro as talented or skillful?
Oh, because of how fast he got at the top from when he started.
Yeah, because I remember watching Nitro and he wasn't getting any W's. Kind of the same with Pred, because I remember watching him at NLBC before anyone knew his name, before he put the second Y after Legendary. Like, he was just another pop monster, right? But can we only decipher someone's talent after a set amount of time? Is that, because that seems like a really weird way to gauge it, but that's the only way we have, well, I've only been gauging it that way, right? Because Grishchi has shown over time that he picks up games quickly. Another example, I can't really think of another example as clear as that one. Punk? Well, Punk used to be an online player. And he's good. No, he is good at other games. Sonic Fox. Can we use time for Sonic Fox? I guess we do. No, I think with Sonic Fox, we gauge it through the amount of games they're good at, not the amount of time he's been at that level.
I'd say that's fair because like we class Fox as a talented player because they can just pick up a game and boom. Like who knows genuinely if there is a game one day where he might might not be like that.
I guess Street Fighter 5 was the example, right? Because they played that for like a couple of months.
Yeah, they played fine.
And they didn't get out of like pools.
But we wouldn't say we wouldn't say they're not talented though because of that one game. Because in
No, of course.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like the metric seems to shift. Because let me think of another example. I think Faisal and OB are talented, but it seems to be only in team games. And the only other team game they've played is Marvel. I don't know if that's...
Is that a demonstration of truly transferable skills?
I don't know.
Different games test different skills as well, right?
True. True.
There are loads of different varieties. So, like, team games test your ability to make decisions quickly over a Street Fighter, which is you make very small adjustments, but stick to a very singular, like, here's what I'm looking for, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Whereas, like, a team game, you could go, right, these three things can happen.
Yeah.
And then you, like, just, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's like it's a specific talent in that situation, right? But because they've only been good at that one game, can we say that they're so I think I can use OB and Faisal because I've played them. I've experienced the talent. But if you haven't played them, could you see the talent? If you never heard from people say OB sick, could you see the talent? That's what
yeah, exactly. Because Andrew's asking us now, but doesn't that kind of prove that it's mostly past experience, not natural talent? That's not what we're saying. We're saying because they've only played a couple of games, for example, you don't know whether it's genuinely natural talent or if it's just an affinity for certain aspects of those games, like, Marvel and Dragon Ball team games. Like, so C4 is asking, what's the metric? We just don't know that.
Yeah, we all do it. We all say this person talented or this person's graft, like this person's trained to be this good. And like Ambi was saying, is there a top player that isn't talented? And I think there is. I just don't know, because it seems logically possible that there's been someone who's not been good at any other game, who doesn't even play games, that was good at there was a guy called Snake Tits that only played Marvel, who was super good at Marvel but started off really bad. I think that was, but obviously the gauge of top player is, I don't know how to gauge a top player. Like, how many majors do you have to win to be classed as a top player? I don't know.
Yeah, cause I don't think it's a controversial take to say that there's top players that have no talent, because it's as simple as that, what C4 said and what we've argued about skill this whole time. If you pick someone up off the street who's never played a fighting game before, doesn't know what they're doing, like, no coordination to begin with, you could teach them through sheer force of will and through ensuring that they have the right resources the whole time, and they will be on that level eventually. Like that's just pure skill honing, skill training. It's not a bad thing, really. Like, if that's how you get at the top, it still means you got at the top.
Yeah. Ambi said, is there a top player that is talented but no skill? I think because of the nature of fighting games, you need a little bit of skill, whether that be like learning matchups, because that would be a skill because it's different to every game. I don't think you can have no skill. I think you could probably get out of pools on purely talent. Like, I can definitely see someone like Punk or Justin or Chris G getting out of pools with like 10 minutes on the game. 100% I can see that. But obviously, it's not going to carry them to win the tournament, because the people with the XP of the game will beat them. So I think you still need a little bit of skill on top of that talent. But I think someone with talent can put in half the amount of time as someone with no talent but all the skill and equal them.
And then Andrew's saying in response to that, but isn't that past experience in knowing the fighting game fundamentals?
I would say that's a talent. I think if you can go from Marvel, I've got a better example. So, what was his name? Machabo. Machabo was a Guilty Gear player. He won Evo for Guilty Gear Rev and went, damn, there is zero money in here. I can't get sponsored because I'm playing the wrong game. Went to Street Fighter and did really well in Street Fighter 5. I think that's a talent, because there's not many transferable skills in between the two games. There's a fighting game fundamental, obviously, that I think you inherently get once you start playing a fighting game. maybe bar like dive kick. If you play any other fighting game, you understand a fundamental level of fighting games. Even if you play like Smash, I think if you play Smash, you can go to Soul Calibur and still understand a very basic concept of fighting games, and then that is your talent. At that point, I would say that's a talent, because you've gone into a new game with no understanding of that game, but have an understanding of what to look for, how to find a strategy that will work in this game, maybe not in the other. I think that would be a talent at that point, personally.
Yeah, this gets very messy now of understanding what talent is, because before I said, like, right at the start when I jumped on, I was like, right, what is a talent and what would we deem it? And the only real one I think we all agreed on was reactions and then high level strategy. I think they're the only two that we all unanimously agreed on. Because it's difficult to say that Andrew's wrong here, where he says, are we not just talking about previous experience?
Okay, cool. I'll clarify what I'm saying now. This is in terms of fighting games. I think the other ones we was talking about, like reaction, is anything. That's a talent in anything. Like, you could use those reactions in baseball. You could use those reactions in tennis. Like, you could use those reactions in being like a stuntman. Like, reactions is just universal, where having a fighting game fundamental only applies to fighting games, but it's a talent in fighting games, if that makes sense. It's like a specified talent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Wow. Snake's asking, are reactions talent though? Because they can be trained and they just drain over time.
Yeah. Oh no, they came in on Apollo's raid. Oh yeah, shout out to Apollo raid as well. Yeah, I think us three all agree that reactions you can't improve on, but predictions, reads, you can, and they translate visually. They're identical to reactions. I think that's a better way of me saying it.
Yeah, I think you can train your reaction time to a certain point, but like I don't think there's any sort of instance where a talented person has better. At that point, it becomes who has the better mental and physical, talent for the things that come before that. Like, who can make the read ready to react.
Yeah, because I think even Alex Valle did like an interview, and they were saying, basically, this isn't verbatim. I'm obviously like ad-libbing, but they were saying, you're mad old now. How are you anti-airing on point all the time? It's like, obviously his reactions have dwindled, but he's seen so many fighting games. He basically knows when you're going to jump. He just knows. He conditions you to do it. He predicts that you're going to do it. He uses all these other aspects of the game to overcome that his reactions are slower. So on screen, when we're watching a match, it's identical to someone reacting at the last moment to someone who's conditioned you, predicted, seen a pattern, and then done it. You can't tell. Like, as a commentator, I can't tell. I just say reactions. When sometimes it isn't a reaction, it's that they've jumped in this situation. Last time they blocked something that was -2, they jumped backwards. Like, but you don't say that on commentary because it's long, but you just say reactions. But it's not really reactions. It's everything else other than reactions. It just looks like it.
Yeah, no, that happens a lot. So Amy asked a good question, which is, I have another question. Can you see someone is talented by the way they play their playstyle? I believe so, because I don't know if anyone else agrees. Whenever I watch Wawa play Dragon Ball, and Kaiden, it looks different.
Yeah.
Right, it just clearly looks different compared to everybody else. Having played against Fenrich as well, it's just different, right? I believe.
Because I think a talented player is also so good and has that different play style because they also are so good at incorporating what the opponent will do as well. Like a skilled person, for example, will be great at their own skill set, their fundamentals, their everything. They've trained that. But someone who just has that talent, they can get in your head and they will play just to psych you the fuck out and make you make a mistake.
I think that's skill. I think you can learn to do things like that.
Yeah, I think both sides of the coin could do it, but I think that sort of thing would come more naturally to a talented person. Like you can recognize it easier in that regard.
I think I agree with Sir, but it's hard to it's hard to say that because unless we get a lab and go, look, I want you to play like Kid Viper. I want you to IB every meaty, IB every jump in. I want you to play flawlessly, but that's your playstyle. I don't know if I would say no one plays like Kid Viper in Guilty Gear Strive. He has been playing. The way he looks like he's playing the game is like the game's been out for 4 years. That's how he looks like he's playing. But unless we've told someone to emulate him, I don't know if I can say it's his unique playstyle that no one can do. That's the thing, right? We always assume that someone can't do it, but we've never kind of forced someone to prove that wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we've never been proved otherwise.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, I could say no one can play like how Obi plays. No one. But I can't prove it.
Because if someone had the time to, learn how Obi does it and then apply his mindset to the game as well,
exactly.
They could evaluate. Yeah, and I think Ambi is also raising a good point as well. To me, the question comes from the fact that you can't emulate Mochi's soul. But watching Mochi's soul, it does not look talented, but he's obviously a god. It doesn't feel like it's not emulatable though.
Yeah, there are loads of players like that, right? Like a really famous one from Street Fighter 4 is Jayobin, right? Who would do like the most ridiculous shit you've ever seen in your life, right? And then every Ryu you'd play on Street Fighter 4 for years would also then do the exact same thing, but they would never work, right? And they were just compilation videos of people trying to play like Jayobin, and they can't play like Jayobin.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it works on both ends, right? Because some kind of, I guess, a bit more common is like Easy Man. No one can. I don't think anyone can play like Easy Man.
No one can.
No.
But we say that. Obviously, we can't prove it, but we can say it, right? I can say it with my chest. I don't think anyone else could play like Easy Man. The way he sees and thinks about his options, he's on some lateral flow thinking system. Like it doesn't make sense until after the fact. And then after the fact, the conclusion is it's Easy Man. Like that's all you can say. Like we expect it from him when we see the scenario, or I think we do this on every game as well, where we go, oh, that was like XX. So we see a situation and go, that was like someone else. So I guess by saying that, we've established that this is a standard for that person. And anything that looks similar, we equate it to that person. Or or Fab in Guilty Gear. I don't think anyone can play Potemkin like Fab does.
No, it's fighting games are very personable because it's an individual making decisions, and we as fighting game fans view them decisions with emotion. They end up becoming very personable. So when you watch somebody make certain decisions in aspects over and over again, they become like a characteristic, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing. I don't know how we got here from talent versus skill, but
yeah, but I think it is a fair point though, because I think that stance as a whole it's basically a guilty or until proven innocent analogy. Like I can say no one can play like Easy Man. You can say that, and well, that technically is correct. But if someone came along and played like Easy Man, well then boom. Like you don't think someone can play like Easy Man? Someone has to come and defy the expectation and do that.
Yeah, I remember how this links back to talent and skill now. It's so a person's decision making is based around their skill set, right? Or talent, which defines their personality as a fighting game player.
Yep.
Right. So Easy Man plays the way he does because it favors his skill set, right? Easy Man is not the quickest on the draw, right? He doesn't have say a talent when it comes to reactions.
Right, yeah.
But he will DP your super dash all the time because he plays in a way that when he's jumping back here, he's only looking for you to super dash at him.
100%.
Right, 100%. And he will do things like run at you and then jump back because that's what he has to do for it to work for him. Yeah. So play styles And well, yeah, playstyles are determined by your talent, if anything.
Playstyles are
If,
determined by
back
your
to Andy's
talent.
question.
I think that's reasonable to say.
Yeah, I think that is probably even a better metric than results in time, because I think of someone like Popentino. For some reason, randomly, there was a compilation of Popentino playing Ken, and I was like, yeah, that's exactly how he plays Soul. Like, obviously I can say this after the fact, but I could see the footage of his Ken without knowing it was a Popentino compilation video and say that's Popentino.
Yeah, 100%.
And whether or not that talent leads to him winning every major that he enters, I think it's a talent that he's been given the same set of tools that every other Soul player has, but you can still see him through those tools.
I would say skill, not talent here.
You say that's a skill, not a talent.
Yeah, well, yeah. So it's his understanding of situations and his learn experience.
Right.
So he does these options, right? So that's a skill he's built up. Like it's not talent. There's no talent in him doing the 4D pro. It's a skill he's developed through playing fighting games, right?
I disagree. I think it's a talent because no one's taught him that. I don't know. I think it could go either way. Me personally, I think it's a talent. I don't think he's sat down and gone, this is a good idea. That's just him.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see what you're saying. He's like, you could say the other way, like, oh, he played like this, he saw some results, and he refined the way he did it. Yeah.
100%. I think that's how he's got his play style, right?
Yeah, I just think he's a nut. So we both could be right unless we ask him. I guess that's the only way around it. I think he could be sat down with like the greatest minds like Takedo and like stuff like that, and he would still play like how he plays. So you could teach.
Yeah, dude, I played Puppettino in Strive.
Yeah.
For the first 2 weeks, he never blocked low on wake up. I don't know why. I've never seen somebody do this before. Literally, you could just run up and win 4 games in a row, and he just never blocked low on wake up once.
Mm-hmm.
And then he changed it. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I've never seen somebody that committed to the cause, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, when his whole gameplay and his style of fighting games revolves around him doing 4 DPs in a row as well, it's kind of built around basically refusing to say yes or no to things.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Adaptation is pattern recognition. Everyone has that. Ambi's a nice person. I definitely don't think everyone has that. I think a lot of people do.
Oh, they do, but I this was the one thing that you disagreed with me, right? Where I said that pattern recognition is also a talent.
Yeah, I said it was a skill. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's why. Yeah. I don't think that is a talent. So I don't think anyone. I think you have to learn that. Yeah.
But I think, like, so I struggle with this. I think this is one of my biggest flaws personally as a fighting game player, is pattern recognition and me going, so here is layer A, this is what happened. Now we've done layer A, you will do layer B and blah, blah, blah. And when someone doesn't play along and they pick things that I can't understand, I can't win. And it frustrates me and, you know, the way fighting games work, right?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if I said this at the beginning. So what Ambi's saying is, to me, a talent is a bonus stat point on certain things in fighting games. I think it's like a multiplier. I think I said this, like, I see talent is a KO Ken to an attribute. So if your talent is hand-eye coordination, I think the skill bar for execution can be broken because of your talent. If that makes sense. So the random that we're getting off the street, they can practice for years and years on this execution thing, a Marlon Pie combo or whatever. But a talented player would be able to either do it in half the time or be more consistent. Do you know what I mean? Like they'll be more betterer at it.
Yeah.
Because the talent is a multiplier to a specific skill tree, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And he's calling it affinity, which I think is fair.
Yeah, I think you can have that sort of talent, and I think you can have a talent that isn't tied to a skill, like we said with reactions. I think there's probably more. I just can't think of any. Maybe like, it's got to be another one. I don't think it can just be reactions.
So the reason why, so let's say, we're talking about pattern recognition, right? The talent. So somebody who's talented at pattern recognition is you go A plus A equals B, B plus B equals C, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they instantly know that C plus C equals D. Right, you don't have to tell them anymore. These things happen on the screen. A person who's talented at something understands the problem and they solve it. Right. Okay, I understand how the game works, and now I judge that this is how it will be. Right.
Yeah.
Whereas another person needs to kind of maybe be explained a bit more. Maybe they have to a longer way around. You know, that whole kind of thing.
This might be a reach, and I might retract this. I think potentially conditioning is a talent. I think you can tell someone how to condition. You can go to like a frame trap. Frame trapping is conditioning, right? Frame trap is conditioning. Mm-hmm. So the concept of it is you do this to force them to make a wrong decision. Like the kind of short elevator pitch of what conditioning is. Yeah. I think a talented player will get the conditioning right more times than the trained player, the skilled player, because a skilled player can copy paste like a vortex or a setup. They just do the setup, where a conditioned player knows when to not do the conditioning or just go for a throw, for example, or let's go for safe jump. So a talented player knows when they can not do the safe jump to go for a throw, but a skilled player will always do the safe jump. More times, not all the time, sorry, more times, because they're not reading the situation. They don't have that, I don't know, Wong factor, whatever you want to call it, that like I don't know, the rock paper scissors factor. They don't have that because they've just copied and pasted.
I don't necessarily agree. I think it's a natural thing as you learn fighting games, right? As you go, I'm plus 3, right? Because I'm plus 3, I get to press another button, and I am either scared of DP or I'm not scared of DP, right? Mm-hmm. That's the general baseline. Everyone understands that, right?
Yeah.
Get a bit better at the game. You go, I am plus 3. Actually, now I will throw you because I do not believe you, right? And then you go, well, even better. You go, now I will do walk forward delayed button, right?
Yep.
I think it's skill, like you push your advantages more and you get more reward from things. I don't think that's talent. I think that's just more. I think that's in fact, I think that's inherently skill.
Yeah, I think maybe it's because I'm looking at the results. I think when you look at the results of how often someone does it, because everyone can do it. Everyone can go, I'm plus 3. I have all these options to my disposal. Some are safe, some are unsafe. But a talented player does this consistently against random opponents. I think there's the only difference between the two people that do it a lot and it doesn't work, and the person who does it a lot and it does work, is talent. I can't think of any other thing, because there's a lot of people that kind of like not idolize, or they kind of like look for tech from X player, right? And they obviously try to emulate how they play, and they can understand the concept, but it doesn't work for them. And there could be like an outside factor, like their name. Like obviously when you play someone, if I'm playing Johnny Toaster and he's playing the same team as OB, I'm still going to do different things to Johnny Toaster than I'm going to do against OB, because I think OB, it won't work on OB sort of thing, right? Or even on the defense, I think, yeah, they're playing the same team. They look, Naheem, sorry. Let's go with Naheem, because Naheem actually does do this. He tries to play like OB. But I will mash more on Naheem than OB.
Yeah.
I think that's because of the talent OB has that Naheem doesn't have. But it could be a bias. It could be a bias on my part.
I think against everybody, you have to make sure that they can do the thing. Right, you have to check everyone. Like, I don't know if I'm playing against Daigo, I'm mashing on him too.
Are you?
Yeah.
I mean, Darren did that and he got obliterated.
Right, but so it was the worst thing I learned this really early on when I played fighting games because I used to go WSO and get smoked by Ryan Hart and shit, right? And really early on, everyone was like, "Yeah, you can't play like they're so good because they're still just gonna get hit by like you still have to do the thing, otherwise,
yeah.
right?"
Mhm.
I think like that's a very medium level thing that a lot of people don't learn.
100% agree.
Yeah, is that you always have to check. Just going back quickly because Ambi says, but that's not conditioning at all. Conditioning is forcing your person to do something and then call it out. Yeah, sorry, my example wasn't specifically on condition. It was a quick thing, right? It was I'm +2, and then you try to throw, and then because you're beating pro, you do frame trap, right? So you're conditioning someone to do something, then you're doing an option that beats it. It was just a quick thing, Ambi. Right?
I might have an example of this a bit better than my old one. If anyone's seen Phenom versus, was it Daigo when he threw him like 5 times back to back?
Yeah.
That, it's gonna sound dumb. I think that's talent. I don't think you can be taught or learn when or how to do that. It sounds stupid because obviously it's just walk throw, but he did against Daigo.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I hugely disagree. He just picked one option 5 times in a row. That was all.
Yeah, but if it was that easy, this would happen more often, no?
It's not that it's that easy. Like they're like he's clearly a good player, but the choice of picking throw 5 times in a row, I don't think is talent.
Maybe again, it might be because of maybe I have to take into consideration who they're doing it to. Maybe that's what I gauge it by, and I don't know. Because the fact that he did it on Daigo, to me, does make it talent. If he did it to someone in pools, I'll be like he's trolling him. But he knows that Daigo isn't bad at the game, and he did that.
Yeah, but this is when like throw loops were just the thing in the game. Like Street Fighter 5 just worked like that. You could just it was always a 50-50. You know, he just picked right. Like
I think to even go for the option is a talent. I don't know, but I think that is kind of the reductional part of what we was talking about Easy Man. It's like, yeah, he just picked an option and it worked. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But again, it goes back to like the result. It did work. Like literally 6 times he threw him back to back.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I guess it is just the metric that I'm forcing, but we haven't really. I don't know if you or Sir or anyone in chat. I think the metric that is better than like the time. The amount of wins and how quickly they got those wins. I don't think that's a good metric for talent, even though everyone kind of uses it like by default. I think the mind game versus another opponent with considerably good mind games is a good show of talent, because I it's very rare to see a skilled someone who's like new to a game do something like that. Well, actually, no. You like you said, actually, not anyone can do it. To succeed doing that, to succeed doing it.
Sure, I would argue Street Fighter 5 is actually the worst example of that because it was a game that a lot of people did complain at the time, especially when that happened, that anyone could take games from anybody.
You're right.
That was the argument for the game at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I get what you're saying. It's like, regardless of the mind game, the execution of that is still indicative of talent. Yeah, I don't know. I prefer to look at talent of like we were saying before. Like there are very specific things that you could regard as talent, like pattern recognition, reactions, strategy, the things like that. I prefer to look at those things, other than this person wins a lot when a new game comes out.
So how would you? Maybe you can't. Maybe we just have to like kind of guesstimate. But how would you look at someone you don't know? Say they came from another game. Say they came from like Soul Calibur or something. So you don't know their name, but you know they play fighting games. You look at their match in Dragon Ball, for example, how would you dissect which part's skill and which part's talent? I don't think you can do it, but maybe someone else can. I don't think I could.
So if there's a 2H that they react to, incredibly close to them, and they're able to demonstrate they can do that consistently, I'd say this person's got reactions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, so they've got this talent. If let's say I'm watching the person move and there's a very clear movement pattern, and they notice that and they interact with that straight away or like very quickly. So like watching Goichi is the best for doing this. So people will move around the screen. Goichi will catch them the second time they do a movement pattern, right?
Yeah.
It's like the best thing. He calls his assists straight away to stop that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Say, right, this person's like they're talented at understanding screen movement and all that stuff, you know? So that's what I would use. And again, it depends. You have to watch someone play multiple games against people, because again, going back to fighting games are very personable. Like you could do something and it works a lot against one person, and you could play another person. They could use the exact same team, but different person, and the shit you're doing doesn't work because the decisions they're making are completely different. So you have to see, I think, some form of like numbers, you know?
Yeah. No.
But those are the things I would look for, and then determine talent.
What about you, sir?
Like with the metric thing, I'm with you on that one, C4. I think that it's an acceptable indicator, like being able to tell over time who got there first, right? But I do think that I'd have to agree with you on like the mind game and like the sheer adaptivity levels. I think adaptation is also another, massive talent demonstration at first. Like you can learn how to, do the mind games, but there's just someone who can do the mind games in the beginning, for example, and that's what you were using, Yevsky, with the whole Goichi thing. So I think that whilst it's a more subtle indicator, I think it's a more true to the difference of skill and talent one. So I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably be like more conscious next time I commentate to like look for those things, because it's easy. It is like really easy to say. Maybe in like Dragon Ball, it's a bit more. The one thing that is very telling about Dragon Ball is people's movement. And it's really easy to see. Like I could see Yasha literally from like the 5 seconds of non-combat. I could tell it's Yasha. I could tell a Yasha match because of how he moves around the screen, how he is super safe but always in a threatening situation. Like it's very rare to see someone like that. Normally people are like, I dare you to go for something, or I'm staying here to try and react. He's always in that middle ground where it's like, I know
it's like I'm doing this, but it's your peril to challenge it, basically.
Yeah. He's always like, I'm here. You think you can reach me? I know you can't. It's kind of like these anime footsies, people normally call it, but he's always in a space where it looks like you can hit him or at least make him block, but you never do. You never ever lock him down. And I think that can't be taught. But it's weird because I speak to the ME guys a lot, the Middle East guys a lot, and I've just called them EX France because all they do is study French players, but they have the mentality of NA players. They all play mixed teams, but their movement is like France. So I don't know if they're talented in emulating other people, or they've just copied and pasted, or like it's just their skill or their work ethic, because there's so many like strong players from that region, like in multiple games. So it would be kind of like a backhanded compliment to say that, like maybe they're just mad talented, and you can't see it because they're openly saying that they're taking the best strategies and EXing it, like Chris G with Dominion's team. Maybe that is their talent, that they make other people's strategies better. I don't know. That's what I mean. I can't tell which is which. You have to kind of like assume, right?
Yeah. So what's the difference between emulation and just outright learning it?
Yeah, like
that is a very, very tough distinction, to be honest, because some people will emulate it through just studying, as in watching videos constantly, watching their tweets, so on like that, until it just becomes their play style. But some of them will just see how they're doing it and being like, what if he does this? What if he does that? And then making it like the play style, but with their spin on it. Like, it's incredibly subtle, but I think it is measurable.
And the only thing I feel that you can't emulate is a mind game. You can't emulate someone's mind game. I don't think I've watched Akrol play for years. I cannot flash kick and go, that's when Akrol will flash kick. I can't pinpoint it. But when I see it, I know exactly who's playing. Like I can tell the difference between an Akrol Leo and a Nelk Leo. I can tell the difference just by when they flash kick. But I can't emulate it. So I feel that's the only thing that's not emulatable. I don't think anyone can play like Akrol. He's a nut. He goes into back turn in neutral just to do super. Who does that? I never see a moment to do that, but he always picks moments where he can get into back turn safely. I don't know. I see I see Finrich's and Easy Man's SSA Vegeta. I can't win by just 6-Ming. I couldn't do it. And Fenrich did it to Goichi. Like, that has to be talent, though. He opened up someone who a whole country decided to play Kid Buu and Broly to open him up. He defined the meta in a country, and Finrich just said, I'm just going to 6M you and Dragon Rush you and mix you that way. Two moves that are so reactable against a person who has one of the best reactions in Dragon Ball. And he did it. I mean, he didn't do it every time.
No, that's the thing. He didn't do it for 2 years. Even then, he still lost, right? They took him 4 years. How long has Dragon Ball been out? 4 years.
4 years, yeah, 4 years. 4 years.
Yeah. So it took him 4 years to get the 6Ms.
Was it that? I think he was doing it before, though. No. I mean,
he lost World Final. Like, Fenrich lost World Finals to go to, right?
He did. I mean, yeah, he takes a lot of L's. He's Vegeta in it. He's just literally Vegeta. He's always coming in second place. I feel.
Yeah, and he didn't play Vegeta to finally beat him the other day.
Yeah, I know. Maybe it's because of everyone around him. Maybe it's everything around him. So with all the metas, I mean, he did do the TOD stuff, so I guess he had that part of the meta. But everything else, he didn't play. And
well, he picked GT.
He did pick GT. He picked GT Cell Vegeta, though, right?
Yeah.
I think Vegeta was meta for 2 weeks tops.